Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of The Inside Scoop. I am so excited to do this episode because you guys already know who I am now, so I get to just dive into the real topics that I want to talk about. And today I'm going to be talking about my journey with mental health. It's been a long journey, and of course, I'm still working on it, and I will be working on it until the day that I die, but I think that I am in honestly the best place that I've ever been in my life. And I think it's so important to share my journey and share what I've been through in hopes that someone else can relate and maybe get help or see that they're not alone in what they're going through. So I'm very excited to kind of share everything I've been through, and everyone's situation is different. Everyone's mental health journey is different, but this is just my journey. And I think that a lot of people will be able to relate to what I've been through, and hopefully this can help someone. So I'll just get right into it, honestly. From a young age, I've kind of always dealt with a lot of perfectionism, and I'm not diagnosed with OCD or anything like that, but I do have OCD tendencies. And so I've kind of always had that in me. I've always wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to get 100 on every assignment. I wanted to do everything perfectly in my sport, which was softball. At the younger years of my life, I wanted to get on base every time, make every play, do everything perfectly because I was scared of failure. I was scared of what other people would think of me if I wasn't perfect for them, if I didn't surpass all expectations that I thought that they had of me, right? I wanted to just be perfect at everything I did. And ultimately, that's not possible. It's not possible to be perfect. It's an unfair expectation to set for yourself. And it was an unfair expectation for me to set for myself. But I kind of dealt with that from the moment I was born, honestly. All all throughout my childhood, I dealt with those thoughts, just feeling like I had to do it all perfectly and never make mistakes. And then I also was dealing with a lot of anxiety, and at the time I didn't know that it was anxiety. I actually discovered that I had anxiety about a year and a half ago maybe. But I kind of just always had this like sinking feeling in my stomach. And I just felt like I was never enough. I would overthink everything and come to find out it was anxiety. And that honestly played a big role in my life, made me very unhappy, and made me feel like I was never enough for anyone, even myself. And that became a big thing in my life of just being really down on myself, feeling like no one liked me, no one cared for me, no one thought that I was pretty, no one thought I was good enough, no one thought I was athletic enough. All these things crowding my head and making me feel like I wasn't worthy of love, like I wasn't good enough for someone to like me or want me. And it got to a very bad point whenever I was about 12-ish. I ended up having some big problems with my biological mom, and basically, I kind of grew up with her. She didn't love me in the way that I needed love. My love language is definitely quality time, but also words of affirmation. I love being like, I like to be reassured, and that goes hand in hand with anxiety of like, I'm overthinking this, so I need to be reassured. I need you to tell me that you love me. I need you to tell me the things that you like about me, or else I will spiral and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this person hates me. This person doesn't love me. I'm not good enough for this person, right? But my mom didn't love in that way. And I had a lot of problems with that, and I felt like in order to be good enough for her, I had to shape myself to be the person that I thought she wanted me to be. And that led me down a very, very dark and sad path. And I basically decided that for her to love me, I had to be skinnier. I had to be more athletic. I had to run faster because at the time I was just getting into cross country. I was kind of starting to run a lot and work out a lot. And I thought that in order for my mom to love me, because I didn't feel like she did, I had to be this skinny person. I had to be prettier. I had to be overall just better. And that was the thoughts that were going through my head. And I kind of started spiraling, and I would not eat. I would just kind of starve myself, and then I would overrun. I would run as fast as I possibly could for 3 miles per day, and I was killing myself slowly, basically. It was not the right path, but at the time, it was what I thought would solve things, and it obviously didn't and made things a lot worse. But in the mind of someone who's that young, it's like, it makes sense. My mom, my dad will love me more, and it just got very sad, and I really lost a lot of the energy I had for life, because when you're not fueling yourself, you don't have the energy to laugh as much. You don't have the energy to love deeply. You don't have the energy to make relationships, to build relationships, to do the things that you love. You don't have the energy because you're putting all of your energy into, oh my gosh, I need to be skinnier. I need to look better. I need to do this and this and this, right? And so the only thing I would do all day is basically eat my meals, and I would try to kind of eat as little as possible. And then I would go on my runs or workouts, and then I would sleep. I would sleep the hunger away because I felt it was like a feeling that wouldn't go away. I was always hungry, always. And the only way to kind of silence that hunger was to sleep through it. So I would sleep a lot, and I would just kind of try to avoid it. But also, I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't talking to anyone about what I was going through. So I also felt like I was going through it alone, right? And I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone about it. And it was just a very, very dark path. And I probably honestly went through it for about a year to a year and a half. It was miserable, honestly. And I don't recommend that to anyone. But ultimately, I believe it was the summer before my 9th grade year. So the summer before high school started, I was running with the cross country team because I was going to do cross country for high school because I thought that was what would make me a part of something, make me better, you know? And so I was running with these high schoolers because, you know, you get to run with the team, but it was a lot. We had to show up every day of summer at like 6:30 a.m. and just go run. And we would do hard workouts. And I was just losing more and more energy every day. I was visibly, my bones were popping out. And it's hard for me to look at pictures of myself from that time in my life because I can just see how unhappy I was. You can see it in my eyes. There's no life there. There's no will to live. There's no happiness. And it just makes me really sad, honestly, that I went through all of that. But at the same time, I think that I'm better for it. But anyways, so I was running every day, but then it got to a point where it just became too much for me. It was too much to keep going like that. In June of that year, 2023, I ended up texting my dad. And that kind of just shows how scared I was to talk. I couldn't even say it in person to my dad. I had to text it. And I just texted my dad and I said, I have a problem. I need help. I need you to help me because if not, I don't know what's going to happen, you know? And honestly, if I were to keep going down that path, I could have honestly ended up in a hospital. You know, that's the point that it was getting to. But luckily, I asked for help before it was at that point, which, by the way, if you're listening to this and you are in something like that and you're past that point, you're on the verge of going to the hospital, you're already in the hospital, like, it's okay. It's not too late to ask for help. You're never too far gone to get help. So I don't want anyone to feel like I'm saying that, but it's like, oh, if I'm past that point, I'm unhelpable, I'm unsavable, because that's not true at all. You can always ask for help, and you are incredibly strong to ask for help. So I ended up texting my dad and I just said, I need help. And I was so scared of telling anyone because to me, it was like this secret that I was holding. Like, I thought that no one could see it. I thought no one could see that I was struggling. And so I was scared to tell anyone. I was scared to talk about it. And so I texted him and I went to sleep because I was like, sleeping will keep my mind off of it, right? And my dad ended up being so incredibly supportive of me, and he just showered me with love. And I think that he knew I was going through that, but he didn't want to embarrass me or force me to ask for help, because ultimately you can't help someone who doesn't want help. And he waited for me. He waited for me to see for myself that I needed help and that I wanted help. I needed to want to get better. And I did, because I got to the point where I knew I couldn't do it anymore. And I just felt so loved in that moment. And I felt like there was something beautiful about sharing my burdens with someone. I just never imagined him being so supportive of me. And that has nothing to do with the person he is. That has nothing to do with how I grew up. That was completely in my brain. In my brain, I thought no one would support me through this. No one would love me through this point in my life. So I shouldn't tell anyone that I'm struggling. And I think that I don't know how many of you are religious listening to this, but I am a Christian, and I believe that one of the biggest lies that the enemy will try to convince you of is that you're alone and that you can't talk to anyone, you can't ask for help, you can't let anyone in on what you're dealing with. And I think that is a straight up lie, because we were built for community. We were built to carry each other's burdens, and Jesus himself had disciples who he could talk to them about what he was experiencing, about what he was going through. And I believe that's how we are meant to live. We are meant to share our burdens with each other and carry them together, because we can't do it alone. We can't. It's too much of a weight to carry on your own. And I think it's so important to realize that there are people around you who want to carry those things with you. They want to help. They want to walk with you through the pain and the hurt that you're going through. And I think that's something that I wish I could have learned sooner, but now I have learned it, and I find community incredibly important now. But I ended up letting my dad in on my problems. I told my older sister and I told my therapist. And it was only 3 people in my life who I let in on my emotions and what I was going through. But it created all the difference. Like, I felt supported, and I felt like I wasn't walking through it alone, and that changed my life. It changed my life to ask for help, and I will forever be thankful to myself for asking for help, but also to my dad, my therapist, and my older sister for welcoming me in with open arms and making me feel so loved and supported and never, ever judged for what I was going through and what I was feeling. And my therapist ended up starting me on this app. I honestly can't remember what the app is called, but I would track what I was eating every day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all of those things. And I would track them, and she would send me encouragement through this app. So I would basically take a picture of what I ate, and I would write like a little sentence or two about how I was feeling about that meal. Am I feeling insecure? Am I feeling good? Am I feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be fat after this meal, right? Like whatever I was feeling, I put it in there, and my therapist would look at them and she would encourage me, and she would just say, you got this. You were doing so amazing with all of your food these days. You were making such progress. Like, I'm so proud of you. And just those little encouragements helped me dig my way out of this hole that I had created for myself. And I ended up getting my period back because throughout this time that I was dealing with this eating disorder, I lost my period for probably around a year straight. I think that was honestly one of the biggest things that led me to asking for help, because I realized, like, I'm scared. One of my biggest goals for my life is to become a mother and to have children that I can love so well. And I think that losing my period, I knew if I keep this up, I will never have kids. I will never be able to do that. And of course, I could adopt or something, but like, I think that the idea of never being able to be a mother scared me enough to ask for help. And after a few months of using this app and tracking what I was eating and getting encouragement from my therapist, I ended up getting my period back. And the feeling was unmatched. I felt so just proud of myself for getting out, for asking for help, for staying consistent and honest about how I was feeling in the moment. And I think that was just so important. And getting my period back was a very just important time in my life. And I think it also proved to me, like, that no matter where I've been in my life, no matter how dark of a hole I've been in, you can always get out. You can. And yes, sometimes it's going to take longer, depending on how bad of a place you were in, but you're never too far gone. You're never too far gone to ask for help. And I think that was so, so important for me to see. And I think that going through this eating disorder and also overcoming it has just made me all the more passionate about helping other people who are going through the same things. Because I think that in this age, especially with social media, the world has such unfair expectations of how we're supposed to look, how we're supposed to present ourselves. And I think that it creates so many problems. And I am just so passionate about helping people who are going through what I went through. And I think it's so important to talk about these things. It's important to gather together and say, if you're struggling, that's okay. We're all struggling and we're all dealing with different things, but there's no judgment. We're all flawed. Every single one of us is a flawed human, and we're all going through things, but we can go through them together. And there's no shame in carrying the burdens together. There's no shame in saying, I can't do it by myself. And if you are going through something like this, even if it's not an eating disorder, if you're going through anything, I just encourage you to ask for help, ask for a friend in this time, ask to just speak with someone and let someone in on what you're experiencing, because the worst thing you can do is think that you're going through it alone, because that only leads you down the wrong path. Yeah, and I think that therapy, I know I don't want to seem like therapy is so great, everyone should do therapy, which I do believe that, but I'm never going to force that on anyone, of course, and I don't want anyone to feel like, oh, if I don't go to therapy, I'm a terrible human or anything like that. But I do believe that therapy is an amazing option, and I think that it's so refreshing and helpful to have a therapist to talk to about what you're experiencing, because by law, they cannot they can't tell anyone else. So if you're afraid of it getting out, then with therapists, they literally can't do it. They can't tell anyone else about what you're experiencing. But I think there's something so beautiful about talking about your feelings, and therapy is a great way to do that. There are free websites online where you can be connected to a therapist and talk to them. But if that makes you uncomfortable, I think just talking to the people around you, your friends, your family, talking to people who make you feel safe and comfortable, I think that is another alternative that can be extremely helpful for just allowing you to not carry it on your own. That's what it is. And I think one of the ways that I dealt with my feelings, and I think it's a very healthy way to deal with feelings, is writing it down. I have a journal right here, and even now, I write in this journal all the time. I make art in this journal. I glue things in. I just write down what I'm feeling, because I think a lot of times as humans, we think that if I tell someone how I'm feeling about this, they're going to judge me. They're going to think that I'm dramatic, that I'm just making it up or something. But with writing it down in a journal, it's like your journal can't make fun of you. Your journal can't say, you're ridiculous for feeling this way. No, your journal, you write in it. And it allows you to release those things, even if it's not actually telling someone with your words. You're still releasing the emotions. And I think that is such a healthy way and a helpful way to kind of get those emotions off of your chest, because I think that it's so important to not hold your emotions in. And something that I've experienced a lot is suppressing my emotions. And of course, I suppressed my emotions for about 1.5 years with the eating disorder because I didn't tell anyone. But I think that ultimately your body keeps the score. And I did not create that saying. I don't know who did, but I think it's so true. The body keeps the score. If you are feeling some sort of way, but you're suppressing those emotions and you're not talking about them, those emotions are going to come out somehow, some way. And it's probably going to be worse than if you just say what you're feeling. Probably my best example of this is I have dealt for a long time with stomach issues. I during times when I suppress my emotions, if I go on a run, which I still go on runs, I'm in a lot healthier of a space now, but if I go on a run or workout or something and I have these emotions suppressed and I'm not talking about them, my stomach will end up really, really hurting me, and it's miserable. And I actually call it anxieria. And I know that's kind of ridiculous, but that's kind of the name I gave it whenever my anxiety would get so bad and I would suppress all these emotions and it would come out in my stomach. And I would have extreme stomach issues because I wasn't expressing how I felt. But all of that could have been solved, or at least helped tremendously, if I would just explain to someone what I'm feeling, if I would talk about it. Because the body keeps the score. When you're not talking about it, when you're not sharing what you're feeling, it will come out. It will show itself. And often it will show itself in ways that are not desirable. So the best thing you can do is talk to someone. The best thing you can do is ask for help. Ask for someone to carry it with you. And I just am incredibly, incredibly passionate about that, because and still to this day, I deal with anxiety all the time because I'm not perfect at sharing my feelings. I'm not perfect at all these things I'm talking about, but I am better than I was. And I think that's kind of just to encourage you. It's never going to be perfect, but it's about, where did you start? Where are you now? And you can be proud of yourself for how far you've come since you started. And ultimately, I am so, so much better at dealing with my emotions and talking about how I'm feeling and just dealing with my emotions than I was when I first asked for help than I was before I asked for help. And it's important to see those gains because, especially with social media and just kind of the people around us, like, I think it's easy to compare ourselves to other people and be like, oh, they're in such a good space. Like, I'm still dealing with this anxiety or depression or OCD or eating disorders, whatever it is. Like, I'm still dealing with this and they have their lives perfect. So what's wrong with me? Why am I not good enough? But I think that's the wrong way to look at it. The right way to look at it is look at how far I've come. Look at where I started to where I am now. And that's something called The Gap and the Gain, which if you have never read that book, I highly recommend it. But it's kind of just the idea of don't compare yourself to who you want to be in the future. Don't compare yourself to someone else. Compare where you are now to where you were when you started. And that will lead to way more gratitude for where you are. Just don't forget where you came from. Always be proud of that. And of course, I'm not perfect at that either. I still compare myself to perfection. I compare myself to other people, but I am way better than I was when I started. And that is something to celebrate. And it's something for you guys to celebrate. If you are working on yourself and you are better than you were yesterday or the day before or a year before, 10 years before, whatever it is, you can celebrate how far you've come. And it's something that should be celebrated. Because everyone who's going through life is on their own journey, and we're all working to be our best selves. We're all working to achieve this happiness and contentment with where we are. And we can be proud of how far we've come. And I think it's important to allow ourselves to be happy with our journeys. So yeah, that's kind of my mental health journey. And I am still dealing with anxiety, and I probably will for the rest of my life. I'm still dealing with perfectionism, but ultimately it's not affecting me as much as it used to. And I've come so far, and I kind of just want to share the things that I feel have helped me along the way to get to the point where I am now. And these things will not work for everyone. Everyone is different. Everyone has different emotions. The things that worked for me might not work for you, but I just want to share the things that did work for me because they might work for you. I feel like the biggest thing with kind of dealing with my mental health along the year, over the course of the past few years especially, is, of course, talking to people, expressing your emotions. I already went over that. I think that is the number one thing that will help with mental health, with dealing with the challenges of life. And then journaling, which I also talked about. I journal whenever I feel like it. Sometimes I write in my journal less than other times, but whenever I'm feeling these big feelings and I'm feeling just a lot of emotions, it's so helpful for me to write them down and just express them to something, even if that's just a paper, even if that's just my journal that I'm not going to show to anyone. It's important to get it off of my chest. And yeah, that's been so helpful for me. Another thing that has just kind of helped me with dealing with all of these things is art. I'm very, very passionate about art, which I talked about in the last episode a little bit, but I love to paint, I love to draw, I love anything to do with art, anything to do with just being hands-on creating. I think that has been so soothing for me, and it really calms my brain because whenever I'm creating art, I can't think about anything else. I can't think about the stressors of my life because I'm thinking about my art. I'm thinking about how can I make this look good? How can I do this or this and create something beautiful, right? And art is a way of releasing your emotions. The art you create is a product of all of the emotions you're feeling, of all of it. And I think that that has been so helpful for me. And something that I would recommend to everyone is just really search your heart and find the things that make you feel like yourself. Find the things that make you just happy. Find those things, and it might take some time. Like, it might take some digging to find what makes me happy, what makes me feel at ease. But I think once you find those things, go after them. Continue to do those things, because the more you fill up your own cup, the more you allow yourself to relax and be just yourself, the more you're going to be able to give to others, the more happiness that will come, the more you're going to be able to love. And I think it's a beautiful thing to love yourself so much that it overflows to others. I think that I have found those things that make me feel like myself, and I think it's important for everyone to find those things. And of course, everyone is going to have their own things, but it's just so important to look for those things and find people in your life who make you feel like they're not going to judge you and make you feel like you can talk to them about anything. I think that's also incredibly beneficial, of like, I can talk to this person about what I'm feeling and they're not going to judge me. They're not going to make fun of me for my feelings. I think that's so good for us as humans, because like I said, we're meant for community. We're not meant to be alone. But at the same time, I think that if you don't have those people around you, if you don't have people who you feel like would show up for you or care for you in that way, I think it's better to be alone than with people who don't make you feel good about yourself, who bring you down. If you're in that position, I think it's best to distance yourself from that and work on yourself separately, because when you work on yourself, the right people are going to come into your life, and the right people are going to show up and show up for you, show up in your life and show you that they are there to support you. And those friendships come with time, and a lot of times friendships come and go, but the right people will stay. The right people will show you what a true friendship or relationship looks like, when you push each other and you support each other and you walk with each other through the ups and downs of life. And I think that is so important, to find your people that make you feel like yourself, and make you feel like you don't have to be anyone else. You can be exactly who you are, and that is enough. And just, I think it kind of goes along with that, but learning to be enough for yourself, learning to give yourself grace as well. And that is something that I still struggle with a lot, of like, I don't have to be perfect. I think that I will struggle with that for a very, very long time, but I think that it's been so healing for me, honestly, to see I am enough for myself. I like who I am, and like pushing myself to be exactly who I want to be. And I think, yeah, I love who I am now, and I'm in the position where I truly feel like I am comfortable in my own skin, but I haven't always felt like that. And I haven't always loved myself. I haven't always thought of myself highly, but I think working on it, and just like take the time to admire the person you are, and the more that you can admire who you are and appreciate yourself for all that you are, the more you're going to continue to admire yourself and just learn to love every part of yourself, even the flaws, because we all have flaws, but learn to love yourself through the flaws. And of course, that doesn't mean if you do something wrong, it's fine. It's fine. You love yourself anyways. Like, no, of course, keep yourself accountable. If you do something wrong, it's okay, but work towards being better. But like, don't let your mistakes and your flaws change your love for yourself, because you deserve all of that love. You can't love others if you don't love yourself. You can't. You can't love others to your full capacity if you can't first love the person inside of you. It's so important to just find the things in yourself that you find beautiful, that you love and remind yourself of them. Remind yourself of the person you are. Remind yourself of the beauty that is within you, because there is beauty within you. There is beauty within every single person, and we just need to recognize it. And it's just life-changing when you can see that beauty in yourself, because when you see that beauty in yourself, it allows you to see the beauty in others. And it allows you to love well. It allows you to just love everything. It allows you to see the world in a different perspective. And ultimately, that brings joy and contentment with your life. And I just think that I've found this love for the world that I never had before I began to work on myself and love myself. It is so important to love yourself. It's important to find the things that bring you joy and find your strengths, find your weaknesses as well, but love all of it. I have weaknesses. I do. Everyone does. But my weaknesses don't change the person I am. My weaknesses don't exempt me from loving myself. I can love myself through my weaknesses, and you can too. Just be you. That's just so important. Be who you are. Be funny. Be crazy. Be weird. Be empathetic. Feel everything and love yourself. Love your life. Love the people around you. And I think that your perspective will change. I think your life will change. And I think that the world will get a lot brighter if you can see the beauty and see the value in your life. Yeah, I think I've covered pretty much all of my thoughts for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope it encouraged you guys listening to just be yourself and work on who you are and just be grateful and allow yourself to be proud of how far you've come. And of course, I am gonna have the ups and downs in my mental health for the rest of my life, as everyone does, but I think that I've found some good ways to deal with my mental health and to deal with all these emotions that come to me sometimes. And I hope you can too. I hope everyone listening can find who they are, can learn to love that. The world would be a lot better if we could all love ourselves and love each other and come together and just love. So yeah, I hope that this episode has been helpful to you. And if you have any other thoughts, please leave it down in the comments. I'd love to talk more about this. I'm extremely passionate about mental health, and I want to help anyone who I can. I want everyone to feel safe and heard here. And don't hesitate to reach out for help if you are in a position where you feel alone or you feel like you can't do it on your own. Please, please ask for help. There are people who care about you. There are friends, family, like there are people who are willing to carry your burdens with you. And I just encourage you in that. You are not alone. You are so loved and you are enough. And I will see you guys in the next episode.